following program is intended for mature audiences.
It's the music, movies, and shows you love.
As if we care.
And hate.
You ain't gonna like it none.
And love to hate.
I didn't expect that at all.
This is The Broken Remote.
Hey, coming to you live on tape on this Tuesday, October 11th, 2022. Will and I have returned to the intranets after taking a 2-week vacation, leaving us plenty to talk about. Before we do, time to plug the good old email, because if you want to get in touch with the show, you can contact us at thebrokenremotepod@gmail.com. And with all that,
you can subscribe to my OnlyFans.
There you go. Or you can subscribe to the Thrills OnlyFans and see all 7 foot of him, including everything else that might be extended.
And all 7 feet that I've put on there, because apparently that's huge.
That is huge. And you know what they say about 7-footers. I'm just going to say the OnlyFans might be a tune-in. You know, it's the way to go nowadays. That's how you want to make the cash.
I keep talking about it with my friend, dude, where I'm just like, look at me look at us working actual jobs, whereas there's a woman out there who's selling her farts in a jar for literally $4 million a year.
It has become a pretty pathetic existence that we live, right? I mean,
yeah.
Between Instagram and OnlyFans and, I mean, it's just, you flip through it, and anybody between 20 and 30 is like, I'm an influencer. I'm a this. I'm a OnlyFans. I'm a this. And it's like, all right, well, if you make money at it, congrats. And I feel like everybody that does it makes money at it. And I know it's only 1%. But
I was going to say, it's probably just like, I mean, I imagine if I shaved my legs and just was trying to sell it to people, I imagine they wouldn't be fooled. I imagine I would not suddenly be like, Rich, I'm sorry, we can no longer do this podcast together because I found my new calling, feet pics.
What you should do, I got something better. You got those big, super long legs, seeing that you're 12 feet tall. You should save those suckers and then just do bottom down, right? Mid thigh down, and then just do something niche, something dirty and niche, like, oh, my sexy legs. And then just have dude legs with a shape so nobody knows it. And then you pawn them off as chicks' legs. You know, you got to keep the feet out of them because your feet
there's
are
probably a whole subsection of dudes out there that are like, holy shit, look at this gangly woman with her fucking just hairy legs. I'm sure that's a fetish.
And then they'll just keep popping in tips. And then, Will, you'll just sit there with your shaved man legs. Yeah. Just clocking it in as some dirty fat boy is just beating it on the other side of the internet.
Yeah, I try not to think about that because it just upsets me in this day and age to know that, hey, where's all the money in society going? And you're going, oh, well, it's funny you should mention that. You know that idiot from high school? Well, she's either a realtor or she is absolutely slaughtering on OnlyFans, making everything you've worked hard for in your entire life.
Or she could be doing both. She could be the OnlyFans realtor, right?
But she's the smart one. That's the thing. I'm the idiot. I tried. No, fuck that. No, it's stupid.
She's the super aggressive. I'm going to sell your house right after I sell my vag.
Yeah, which is funny camera. Because my one friend who I was at because I was been at weddings basically nonstop the last few weekends traveling, and one of the women who I grew up being good friends with, but she was admittedly just a complete moron growing up. Guess what she's doing now? It's not OnlyFans. Which means
then she's an Instagram influencer selling shampoo products.
It's the other one. It's the other one. We just mentioned it.
What I meant, it's not Instagram, not OnlyFans. It's
realtor.
Oh, she's a realtor. Okay.
Yeah, she's a realtor. Absolutely slaughtered. She's this attractive late 20s girl, and you're just yep, that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, I can't imagine that realtors are smashing it now. I think that they did for a good long while, but ever since, rates are 7% now? So
No, they're not. No, they're not. Just like we're not in a recession.
That's right. We can't talk about those things. But
no, the economy's gangbusters. Didn't you see Joe Biden said weed's okay? No, fuck you. No, everything's fine.
Oh,
Everything's
yeah,
fine.
no, I try not to listen to what he or any politician say. Unfortunately, it's all I hear because that's all you see on the news or on TV. What's the most latest thing that they're doing? Oh, Tulsi Gabbard, right? Did I pronounce her name right? Tulsi Gabbard?
Yeah, I think that's her name. Why? What's she? Do I want to
Oh,
know?
she said peace out to the Democratic Party. She called them all an elitist cabal, and she said, "Join me as I leave the party. I'm not going to the Republican, but I'm just going to leave the party." And that was news everywhere today.
Is she wrong though? Is she wrong? Yeah.
Whether she's right or wrong, it's Tulsi fucking Gabbard. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
What are we talking about here?
What do you mean? She's from the great state of Hawaii that provides things like tourism. And,
we get it. You wore all white on your presidential debates. You know, you tried to look like this little vixen bullshit deal. We get it. We get it.
Hey, she did annihilate Kamala Harris, and that was hilarious when she did that.
I mean, is it difficult? I mean, come on. Kamala's working with half a brain.
She's the only one who did it on stage, and for that I will love her because that woman just keeps appearing in my life, and I don't know why.
I don't either. I mean, I guarantee you she's got a secret OnlyFans account. No doubt in my
Kamala
mind.
Harris?
No, not Kamala Harris. Oh, Jesus.
Tulsi Gabbard?
Tulsi Gabbard,
Listen, I would subscribe to both, just because.
You're nuts. Who's subscribing to Kamala Harris?
Listen,
unless you just get off on word salad, right?
It wasn't.
Kamala,
it wasn't
talk
on
to me
purpose,
some nonsense.
You get a 3-for-1, and you get AOC, Tulsi Gabbard, and they throw Kamala Harris in there as well. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm not going to say no to this deal.
All right. I got you. So you got to take all three, and you're okay on the other two, right?
You're not on its own. You wouldn't go for it, but when you're like, listen, for savings like this, can I really say no? Yeah, so that's where I'm at.
I never thought of it that way. Good for you.
Yeah,
I'd buy the
that's what it's about. I'm always thinking about those savings, man. I always go to the Dollar Tree to buy my soda, and I always make sure I get the 3-for-1 special.
Oh, shit.
I'm talking
about that, I got to plow right over you. My kid just was bitching and moaning because he went to a sleepover last weekend, and the family bought dollar store marshmallows, and he couldn't have bitched more about the quality of the marshmallow. I was like, really? I was like, it's just a fucking marshmallow. Oh, no, Dad, you don't know. It didn't burn right. And then if it did burn, it just went all up in flames and immediately roasted. I'm like, it's a fucking marshmallow. He's like, they were from the dollar store.
We should get your son's take on this now because I'm actually very curious what he has to say about marshmallows because I have also had this complaint.
Oh, did you really?
No, not really. But I do think that's just.
Way to go, literal Rich, you fucking idiot. Ugh. You fucking stooge.
Listen, that's just funny.
Really? Really? No, asshole. Listen to what Will's saying. He's joking.
No.
Fuckface.
I was going to say, 90% of the time, I don't think I've ever been serious in my life. But yeah, dude, no, it's an interesting time. I don't know. We got politicians that probably would slaughter on an OnlyFans account. I don't know. I mean, we also have adult porn
Tulsi
stars that are weighing
Gabbard,
in on
she would make millions. She'd be one of those 200,000, 300,000 a month type accounts.
Yeah, like I would say no to that. No, thank you. I would 1,000,000% do whatever she said.
Have you ever tried to venture into the OnlyFans realm and check it out? Have we had this conversation before?
I think we did years ago, and I never have on the actual website. But here's the thing, and you didn't hear this from me.
Oh, sure.
But what you can do is instead of, pay for an OnlyFans account, people just put that shit on Reddit, and you can just find it all there.
Oh,
and
I'm sure.
That is what some people who may or may not be on this call right now, but yeah.
Is that what you're looking at right now? Let me do a little Google.
No, I'm not looking at it right. I'm not looking at it right now, but I'm just saying. I'm looking at
Reddit
presentations for Maya.
Fans.
Yeah, you can find
see
it.
If something.
Let's just if I put it this way, it is shockingly easy to do.
OnlyFans, you must be 18. Oh yes, continue. I like that. 18 plus, and continue. And what's the first? Oh, hello, hi. How is that?
Yeah, not. Well, that wasn't difficult.
That's sandwich in my face. And, oh, hey, how are you doing? That's what you call boobies. Boobies everywhere.
And
Is that Tulsi Gabbard right there? Oh, no. It's just another larger Hawaiian girl.
Yeah, that was not hard.
Oh, yep. And there's another one. Oh, hey,
anyway.
What's up? I'm going to have to stop talking about that as my eldest 11-year-old.
Yeah, I was going to say that might be awkward.
Anyway, no, I haven't. I'll have to check this out later. But, I mean, they're just snapshots, which is kind of like.
So we have quite a bit to talk about.
That's like two $19.99 for me. Okay, so before we wrap up on that, I do have to jump in on the OnlyFans because I was just too curious because I love myself a beautiful body, right? So I had to see what this was all about. And so I did. And
it was purely out of research.
Purely out of research because you really have to understand what's going on in the world around you to understand what the world could look like going forward, right? So the funny thing is that it's all just a scam. The whole thing is just a scam. I mean, it never stops being a scam. So
interesting.
You can sign up. And so I did a whole bunch of free accounts, right? Because they're free, so who cares? And then I did a couple like low-end ones that were like, oh, yeah, 3 minutes, whatever. Or 3 minutes, $3. And so you do them, and what happens is the girls they might post like some nudies or some videos, but they're like 10 seconds. And then if you want more, you tip. And then their whole thing is tipping. And so you don't get anything for the $3, $4, $10. Like, that's just like putting in the kitty. If you want, like, what OnlyFans really is about, and that's why these girls make so much money, is that you actually have to do, like, this tipping of, like, buco money in order for them to give you the goods. Ooh, I put out a brand new, me and my husband video tonight, and if you want to see it, why don't you tip me? I'll send you. Yeah, exactly. And then I'll send you the video. And so you're just sitting there just constantly spending money. And so I think this is what we were talking about when we both worked together was my wife had somebody that she worked with, and they pulled in their their husband's credit card, or I guess it was a joint credit card, and they looked, and the credit card bill for the month was like $10,000, and it was like OnlyFans. She's like, "What's this OnlyFans thing?" And it was like, "Oh man, your husband got caught. Your husband's a dirty, dirty bird."
Oh, I don't even know if I would feel bad for them. I mean, it's just kind of like that's what happens.
I mean, if you're that dude and you're just shelling out, $100 here, $100, what are you getting out of it? What are you possibly getting out of that? A video?
Yeah.
A video where maybe she says her name in it? Like, oh, God.
I was just saying, realistically, that is exactly, I think, what they're getting out of it.
You fucking sucker. Holy shit.
Yeah, goddamn.
Anyway.
I don't know. I've had no urge. I've just had my one friend who's this fucking like absolute genius with. I mean, he's making fucking bank right now, but he understands how to do like this super advanced coding stuff for these financial some fucking hedge fund somewhere.
I do Python. I do Python, advanced Python.
No, he does. He thinks that's like for children. He's like that. He's like that. Actually, he's actually like super intelligent. But I mean, he's also super socially awkward. But he's super smart.
They go hand in hand, right? Elon Musk. Hi,
exactly.
How are you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's where. So he'll hang out with me like when we're out, and I'm like, I'll help you. You help me. But
I'm on the spectrum, and I have a bankroll. Yeah, you understand
how
it goes?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, let me help this brother out here. But he will download porn from websites that normally people have to pay for because he just knows ways around firewalls.
Oh,
and shit.
I'm sure if he's that smart.
Yeah, and so he has this beautiful saying where it's basically like, listen, I only jerk off to this stuff because it's special because no one else has touched it, and therefore
you always want the special stuff.
Exactly. He's like, and therefore it's more pure. And I'm like, that is devious, and I kind of respect the shit out of you.
Yeah, of course. If I could do it, I would.
Exactly.
Well, it was before your time, but I mean, I can't. For 20 years, I was privy to as much free television as possible because my dad, he owns a my shop in his line of work. He always bumped into people that had free this, free that, whatever. So we had all the scrambler boxes for, I mean, decades, which would just scramble the cable signal coming in and give you all the free channels, the pay-per-views, et cetera, et cetera. And then that way, the way of the dodo, and then that turned into the satellite cards for DirecTV. They had cards that broke the signal, and so we got all the free shit that way. And then the cards started getting zapped, so then what they had was they had a computer underneath the DirecTV box, and then that ran a program, and every time it got zapped, you just restart the program, and that we had that for a while. So, and then I did my moved out of my dad's house, so that went away, but. And then I did the original cracking of the Apple boxes originally, which became, then it was, Cody, right? That was the big program. And then it was a Cinema TV after that. But, I didn't pay for movies for I can't tell you how long. So, if you could do it, I'm with your friend. Steal it where you can because nobody's giving it.
I know. That's the American way is find ways around the legal system. That's what we're supposed to do.
Take it. Look, if they could just print money and give it to whoever the fuck they want, then, I should be able to take some free stuff, too. So I used to load up a couple of, you put some stuff in the baby carriage, when you go through a store, anywhere you can get free stuff. You'll learn in due time.
Yeah. No, that's what it's all about, man. But we have like a million different things to talk about considering of all the content that has come out the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, true. All right, so let's pick it up. Where do you want to go? So enough of Tulsi Gabbard and OnlyFans. Let's go.
Yeah, I was going to say, listen, two conversations that are very integral to solving society's problems. This is true. But I guess let's just start with, because you made me watch this.
I know where we're going. Yes, of course.
She-Hulk is awful.
Nothing like it.
Exactly.
I watched one, I knew it was gonna be bad, but my one friend didn't believe there was something you see it in some television nowadays, but you can feel whoever wrote this show's disdain for the actual fan base of what they're making. And that, I don't even like She-Hulk particularly, but whoever wrote this show clearly hated people that enjoyed Marvel for these past 10 years. And I don't understand how they got the job to write the show.
Well, I agree with you that I don't understand how they got to write the show. I don't get the same feeling that they have a disdain for Marvel, although now I'm thinking about it. I guess the part that I don't understand is, what did they think they were conceptually doing with this show when they put pen to paper and started pen to paper, fingers to keyboards, and started typing out these scripts?
This was more when a chimp just throws things at a wall, and then they're just this is the plot for this season.
Okay. Yes. It's the monkey throwing the dart at the dartboard, right?
Exactly. And it was just
how Bill Simmons. Have you ever heard the Bill Simmons thing? I think we talked about it here, but maybe not. About his whole, his he thinks that Netflix just is a program and it comes up with person, plot line, things that happen.
Give it a few years.
Well,
probably not that far off.
So, have you gotten to any of the parts where she cuts in and just talks to the camera?
And it's really weird because it's just it just doesn't fit in at all. I just don't. I don't get it. It's so confusing to me. It's just. It's not in any of the other Marvel content.
None of it, except for Deadpool, which was in
but it's
Marvel
not even,
till now.
Deadpool's not even quote unquote, I guess, part of that yet. So I don't know what they're exactly going for. It's a very confusing thing to throw in there. I think their thought process is literally just, what's funny when people do this? They love when Deadpool did it, and it's. And also, I know everyone else has been talking about this, but it was just so noticeable because all I've seen was really Doctor Strange of this season. I haven't really watched that many of the shows. The CGI,
it's terrible.
It is so like, and I know we have a disagreement. We'll talk about this later, but like the CGI for She-Hulk is worse than the CGI for Gollum in Lord of the Rings, and that came out 22 years ago.
Completely
Like,
agree. It doesn't work at all.
It's so, and then she's like trying to like look all like sexy in some scenes or something like that, and I'm like, this is weird.
Remember when
this?
Remember when I told you that the mouth didn't go with the voice?
Yeah.
Like
I
it looks
was
like an
noticing
audio
that.
sync difference.
Yeah, I was noticing that. It wasn't like the worst thing I've ever seen, but it was noticeably just the biggest. The fact they're like classifying it in the Marvel MCU,
exactly,
and, like,
for Disney and Marvel. Like this is supposed to be part of the bigger
this
world.
Is like, yeah, I was going to say this is like, and this is going to be a very specific reference, but like, do you like Mountain Dew at all?
No, I have not had a Mountain Dew in
just
20, 30 years.
Okay,
but
neither have I.
When
I'm
I was
not
a
big
kid,
fan
I loved
of Mountain
it,
Dew.
sure.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Mountain Dew either, but like Mountain Dew has a brand, like people like that soda. Now, if you had a brand that people liked, would you go out of your way to be like, people like Mountain Dew, and we have these different like there's Cherry Blast Mountain Dew.
Yeah, that's right. There's
what
a couple.
If we said, fuck it, and we made red hot chili flavored, which is like, by the way, there's a spicy Mountain Dew flavor. This is real.
It sounds gross.
And let's just add this onto our brand to let people know that if you drink this soda, this is a part of the trash soda people brand.
Sure.
And it's just like, why would you add your trash soda people brand to the MCU?
Well,
but it's been like,
they had no problem doing it, and they're like reveling in it right now. Like, I mean, they're like trying to celebrate this show, and it's fucking terrible. It's
just, and I haven't watched really any of the other shows yet because I just don't want to. But I've just, like the Doctor Strange I thought was bad. This is just like,
this is a different level.
It's on a different level. Like Doctor Strange was like, you're trying to like make an MCU movie and you're just not doing a good job. Whereas that was just like, what the fuck am I watching here?
Well, everything about it, like if you want to speak tonally, it doesn't really mesh with the MCU. The CGI is infinitely worse than the rest of the MCU. Now, they went for the all-out comedy road here, and let me tell you, they missed significantly. Because
their humor is just bad.
I have yet to laugh at anything. Not a single thing.
Like granted, part of it might just be like me going into it, like I knew I wasn't gonna like it, and then like they're trying to make me laugh, and it's like when that really weird kid says a super offensive joke, and you're like, that's not funny. Like that's
I mean, I laughed at I've been watching the new Beavis and Butthead series, and I laughed.
Yes, I've heard that was good.
Yes, it was good, and I laughed on my couch, and I was like, wow, I haven't really laughed out loud. And granted, it's not breaking any ground. It's just Beavis and Butthead. They're just doing new things, but they're going for it here and there. And I was like, man, when was the last time I laughed out loud at something? And it was like it's been quite a while, but I did at that. And I watched She-Hulk. I've watched every episode, and I've yet to laugh once. There's just nothing funny about it. I mean, it's supposed to be a comedy, but like every punchline you can see from 3 scenes away. And I'm trying. I don't remember even what happened in that first episode. Outside of I remember when she talked into the camera, and I was like, "This is, it's just jarring."
It was like where did that come from? And then like they're literally just like I don't like. There's something about Iron Man when they set up the beginning of the show where like the first movie, where like he's kind of a dickbag, and then he gets kidnapped, and then they go back to him being a dickbag. But you see him kind of become the hero, and like you're aware he's a douche.
Yeah.
But like he's a likable douche, and then you see him kind of like become this heroic figure as the movie goes on, which like endears you more to him because you see him grow. And the way She-Hulk starts is just like, you're so great. You're the greatest great person I've ever seen in my great life. You're just the greatest. Oh my! Why aren't you an Avenger yet? And you just go, God. Damn.
I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, like the Jennifer Walters character herself.
It's
right, just comes out of nowhere, more or less.
Yeah, and you're just like, okay, cool. I guess this is who we're dealing with as our main character. We have to follow for 8 episodes. Oh no.
You really got to watch because it doesn't get any better. I mean, if anything, it only gets worse. So you're dealing with episode 1, which was the whole Hulk and Hulk deal. So it's She-Hulk and Hulk, and they're throwing rocks around the island or wherever the hell they are, and he's giving her the rundown of what it's like to be an Avenger. And he pieces out in like an episode. So after that, you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, we don't have the budget for Mark Ruffalo, who's been in like 2 things that were famous ever.
Yeah, I mean, I just remembered something. I'll get to it in a hot second. But he is done after the episode, and then you basically really just get She-Hulk doing comedy for a whole bunch, and then in the most recent episodes, in comes the big surprise that they've been teasing all season. Which, do you know of it or what it's supposed to be?
No, but you can spoil it. I don't care. I heard something happened.
It's the intro of Daredevil, right? So they bring Daredevil into the MCU.
Yes, okay, I did hear about that. Yeah,
right, because they already had Charlie Cox in there, in the No Way Home
in the Spider-Man
movie,
thing, right?
Right. But here they actually bring him in his new getup, which is a throwback to his original comic book
the
days.
Yellow suit, right?
Yellow and red, right, instead of the all red. And his persona is just different, and he ends up hooking up with She-Hulk, and they're like a lawyer thing, and it just, man, we waited all this time to get Daredevil into the MCU, and now
it's not even the same Daredevil.
It's not even the same Daredevil. Like, you've taken him, you bastardized him, you made him kind of like this, this side piece for Jennifer Walters. So now it's kind of like, I don't know, is it Daredevil that we're supposed to be into here, or is it She-Hulk? Who's the bigger character? I don't.
Yeah.
It was just a mess, and I mean, it really doesn't get any better. It only gets worse. And
I was gonna say, because the Daredevil show. Now I only watched like the first season. But I thought that was the shit. Like, that was an amazing show.
His Netflix show was great. The Netflix show was great.
His Netflix show is awesome. Like, that hit all the bars for me. Like, maybe it was like it did feel different from Marvel because maybe it was too serious. But like at the same time, I was also super fucking into that part that it was just they were taking such a serious route, and like like people were fucking him up. The fight scenes were really cool.
Yeah,
the villain was really interesting.
Right, and they just put a good deal of effort into the show as a show, not as part of a smaller piece of the larger MCU. It was like a show. We're making a show, and the show is going to feature a Marvel character. His name is Daredevil, but this is a show. Right, and they put pride in that. Where the She-Hulk is not a show.
But how are we supposed to know that She-Hulk's a badass if she doesn't fuck Daredevil? What are you talking about? How are we supposed to know how cool she is?
Oh, you haven't even got. Well, it's also a part of the longer series.
But Rich, if she doesn't peg Daredevil, how do we know she's the coolest MCU superhero?
That's true. I mean, well, hey, they didn't.
Did you not think of that?
No, I didn't, because I didn't. They don't really show what happened. So if she's into some pegging action, I mean, Daredevil, I mean, who knows? Charlie Cox might be a dirty boy.
I've not watched the episode because I'm probably going to watch like one more, but because I watched it before work like yesterday, and like it just like that's what I think it's for. Is just me like running out the door being like, let me just quickly watch this, and you're just like, you're making breakfast, so you're always like, oh, what is she? Why is this happening now? So I kind of want to watch the one where she goes on the Tinder dates next, because I've seen this still where she's like carrying this dude.
That's what I was referencing, was that you haven't even gotten to the part where she's dating, and that this part with Daredevil is just an extension of the fact that she can't date because everybody likes her for what she's not, and nobody likes her just for Jennifer. And
wow,
that's supposed to be something deep that people are supposed to get into. But
what a base take.
Nobody's
so
taken
cool.
that on before.
I was going to say, I've never heard of that before. That's so original, dude. Damn, wow.
That would be a great, like, a Reddit thread on stuff you don't see in the shows but actually happens. And She-Hulk is just a pegging enthusiast.
Yeah, she just ruins straight men. Like, they are never the same.
Them.
And you know the writers would be super into it. You know they're just like, fuck
And
yeah.
Daredevil can get away from it because he's got super
He's
agility.
super hearing. Yeah, he can feel the vibrations, so that actually he's into it even more.
So he's able to take the superior She-Hulk pegging.
Yeah, exactly. Even with all of her superpower and super strength, would normally rip a normal man in half. That's why you don't see some of those Tinder dates after one episode.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, God,
Yeah,
that's a great Reddit
Look.
thread. Things you don't see on camera. That actually
Things you
happened.
don't see on camera. We gotta write these down. This is what we'll pitch to Kevin Feige.
She-Hulk loves
Yeah,
pegging.
Kevin Feige will pitch this along with, I would say, Melissa McCarthy's superhero movie, but it looks like they did that already on Netflix, and that also looks bad. But
did they do? I don't know which one they did. But
dude, look up Thunder Force, dude, and it is
Thunder Force.
I think that's what it's called, but it's basically they made a Melissa McCarthy super. You don't need to know any more than what I just told you, but it's like everything that we've been saying that we would do for a Melissa McCarthy movie. Like imagine we're like you and I just had a project of let's make a Melissa McCarthy superhero movie, and whatever first comes to your mind, that's what they turned into a movie. They're like, here's $30 million.
Is it a newer movie or is it something that was done like 2020?
Came out, I think it came out over COVID, and I watched part of it, and I was like, this is what I thought it would be, just to make sure, and then I just turned it off.
Okay, all right.
Let's put it this way. It's not like Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler where you're like, wow, I've never seen this actor in this kind of role before.
I couldn't get through that, though. I got to give it another shot. I tried to watch it, and I turned it off.
Oh, Uncut Gems?
Yeah.
It's not like, what a long day. I'm going to unwind and watch a really casual, fun movie. No,
They did make it out to be something that it kind of isn't. I mean, they talked about it like it was like a Scorsese, Oscar-winning. Like, when I was watching, I was kind of like, I don't know. Like, I still see Sandler. I get it. He's trying to do something different, but...
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. Like, at least I know he can try to do something different, and I think he succeeded personally, because I haven't rewatched his movies as much as like some other people. Like, I'm still a huge fan of Adam Sandler's stuff, and I still respect it. Like, weirdly, he makes all those weird Netflix movies.
Oh, I haven't seen one of them.
They're not great. They're not any of his classics, but like, it's just him fucking around with his friends making the same shit he made in the 90s. And I'm like, you're getting paid millions of dollars to do this. I respect the shit out of you.
Well, kudos to that. Kevin Hart does the same thing now. Did you see the new Kevin Hart movie with him and Mark Wahlberg? Oh, God. I can't.
Kevin Hart making a movie. What? Yeah, what a new idea.
I mean, we really are. There's so many things wrong with the world right now and our society, but I mean, we are way past peak content because they just let anybody do anything that they want, and none of it's good. None of it's good. Just because you put Kevin Hart and Mark Wahlberg in a movie doesn't mean that it's automatically good. And you watch it and you're like, oh my God. I
feel like Mark Wahlberg and Kevin Hart have also, like, maybe Kevin Hart's like more closer to the height of his star than Mark Wahlberg. But Mark Wahlberg, it was still like a while ago, I feel like, that he mattered.
Yeah, he hasn't mattered in a long time.
Yeah, I just like, he was in those Transformers movies and you're like, okay.
Right, he doesn't move the needle.
Is he here?
I mean, Tom Cruise doesn't really move the needle that much anymore either, but, like, he moves it still way more than Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg in this movie, nobody gives a shit. Like, they're like, okay, I don't care.
Yeah. Oh, Marky Mark. Anyway, moving on.
Right.
It's just...
But
dude,
Kevin Hart, too. Kevin Hart's done. I mean, he is not...
His comedy's just not as good anymore.
He's past his peak.
Have you seen any of his comedy recently?
What was the last one? It had something to do with like St. Valentine's Day Massacre or something.
I think that was it. I don't know, but it was just,
that might have been a 50 Cent album, but whatever. There was something. There was something he put out around Valentine's Day, maybe a year ago, and I tried watching it with my wife. We turned it off. It just wasn't funny.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I'm assuming it's because he's just kind of like mainstream now. I'm assuming.
Well, it's like all these guys. Look at The Rock. There's no chance that Black Adam's going to be good.
No, which is sad.
I mean,
I was kind of pumped for it at first, and then I was just like, no.
Every time I see a new video on it,
come out.
Yeah, every time you see a new video on it, you're just kind of like, oh, this is the same thing as everything else that's come before it.
Yeah, and like Henry Cavill is probably going to reappear as Superman, which a lot of people don't like Henry Cavill's Superman. I think it was cool. I think I don't know, I'm kind of pumped for that, but
I thought they said they weren't putting it in this.
I heard rumors they might be.
Okay.
So who knows? Like that's probably also just to get more people to go day one, and then they'll just completely shaft all of my hopes and dreams, just like Hollywood has been doing very successfully for the last few years. And then I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's another one. I mean, The Rock. I mean, he's past peak. We're past peak Rock too. Peak, peak
are you saying wait, are you saying skyscraper was the sign of a decline?
Easy. Lay off skyscraper. Whoa. I said that before. That's good, terrible. That's a bad good.
Terrible.
Yeah, that's a good bad.
I forgot you saw that one. That's right.
Yeah, that's rewatchable. It's so bad, especially like he lost a foot in it. You know, so he's got a foot.
Right.
it's done over in China or Japan or wherever it is.
Yeah, we got to make sure. I guess they love him. I don't know.
All right. I mean, we're past peak him. We're past peak Hart. Like, I mean, Joe Rogan. We're past peak him. Jonah Hill past peak him. I mean,
but Joe Rogan's like not even trying to be.
Not Joe Rogan. Sorry, I meant Seth Rogen. Sorry, I said Joe.
Oh, Seth. Oh God, I was gonna say Joe Rogan. I still feel like I see way too much. I'm like, can people stop? Like, he's just whatever. But fucking Seth Rogen, I cannot stand, dude. Oh my God.
I mean, there is nobody on the up and up. I mean, I don't know who would be on the up and up right now. I mean, because they can't cultivate new stars, especially since COVID.
What do you mean? No, what do you mean? Billy Eichner with his movie Bros. Yeah,
I don't even know who that is.
He's that. Have you ever seen that? It was like an Instagram, not even Instagram. It was like YouTube. They're like very short, like called Billy on the Street. And he's just this gay guy who would just run through like, your hair looks stupid, and then he would run away. That guy.
No, I have no clue who that is. No,
you're not missing anything.
I don't think I would.
They made a romantic comedy, but it's like it's like a gay romantic comedy, and that's kind of it, I guess. So they used like Judd Apatow as like the producer, and like a bunch of people that were really popular and like 10 years ago, like when those movies were a big thing.
Well, did you see the most recent Apatow interview with
No.
Who was the guy that they got from Fox News? Chris Wallace, right? Chris Wallace bounced from Fox. He went to CNN. He was supposed to get CNN Plus show, and then CNN Plus went, kablooey. And then he had nowhere to go.
It didn't change the world. CNN Plus. That's
it
crazy.
Did not change the world in any way, shape, or form. So
I can't believe it.
Yeah, well, Chris Wallace just did an interview with Judd Apatow, and they talked to him about 40-Year-Old Virgin, and they did this specific scene where they go, you know how I know that you're gay? You know how I know that you're gay? You know how? And he was just like, what do you think about that now? Like trying to put Apatow on the spot where it's like, well, what do you want him to say? If he says he thinks it's funny, then, he's, anti-homosexual. Right?
Whoa. He thought it was fun. We have to cancel Apatow right
exactly.
now. What are you talking about? Yeah,
and Apatow danced around it. He didn't necessarily own it. He didn't disown it. He said, well, that's how the real humor in that is just two, grown men acting like juveniles. Right, like not acting their age. When it was that's
probably all you can say, to be honest.
It is, but it's not. I get it. You can't say what you want to say. And he's like, well, it comes from a good place, and as long as it comes from a good place and from my heart, like I'm behind it. And I was like, what does that mean? So it comes from my heart. Oh, you N-bomb, you gay, cock esser, but I made it from my heart. I was writing those jokes.
It's from his heart, so he can say, now I get it. Now I understand. Now it's cool, dude. What do you mean? No, now I totally understand why he said those things. Oh, it's cool. It's from his heart.
Trump and politics and wokeness and all that, it's just broke the logic of the rest of society. And it's just like we lost so many things. I mean, we lost comedy. We literally lost comedy. Like, you can't, and I'm not saying, like, all comedy has to be offensive, but comedy, at least the form that I liked, came usually from, like, offensive places. And it wasn't always, like, over-the-top offensive and, like, wrong things, right?
No, we need if comedy doesn't hold my hand ever so softly.
That's what I mean. Who likes that shit?
Yeah. I will be offended, and I will scream, and then I will kill everybody. That's just a straight up fact.
All right. Well, you want to talk about safe comedy, and we were talking about the MCU. This is what I had mentioned before that I was like, oh, I got to bring this up. I finally saw Love and Thunder.
Oh, do tell.
Boy, no, you don't want me to tell. You don't
I
want me
no,
to tell at all.
So I told you my thoughts on Doctor Strange. I am very curious to hear what you have to say about
Oh my
Love and
God,
Thunder.
Doctor Strange is like Apocalypse Now, to this fucking movie.
Oh shit!
Love and Thunder is so broken in so many different aspects. I can't even. I don't even know if I finished it. I may have finished it. I may not have. I don't remember now. I think I almost got to the end if I didn't get to the very, very end. But God, dude, number one, very much like She-Hulk, the whole thing is supposed to be a joke, right?
Yeah, that's what I heard. That my mom, who
Yep.
loves, like my mom is such an easy critic of unless it's like animation. She can't stand animation for whatever reason. But she like even she hated Love and Thunder, which I was like, you?
The whole thing is
How?
supposed to be a joke, and it's just kind of like, hold on, like you can't do an entire 2-hour comic book movie as a joke, but they did it with this, and it was all over. Like the Jane Foster thing was ridiculous, and what's even worse is that
Was she okay? Like, was the concept bad, or was like the characters? Because she was like she was literally just in the
none of it
first
made
Thor movie
sense.
because she was.
None of it made
she was
sense.
literally in the first. Yeah,
Because remember,
she was in the first Thor movie because she was hot. That was it. I was just like, yes, she's Natalie Portman, but like, she's attractive as fuck. That's why she's in that role. And now you're like, I don't know. Everything she can act since she was in Black Swan.
You're right. They bring her back here, and they don't even tell you like necessarily why she's back. And all of a sudden, Thor's like all hung up on her. When it's like, dude, he's gone through a whole bunch of movies. He's never mentioned her once. But here he's all hung up on her. Then she just appears. Then you got to figure out, like, why she appeared. And then it's kind of like, oh, well, she's, the female Thor. And then you're like, why is she the female Thor? Which they kind of never really. They really never said anything. They're, she's just like,
she was worthy. Remember how Iron Man wasn't worthy?
She was worthy.
Remember how Iron Man killed him, let himself die to save the world, but, he wasn't worthy? No. Well, she is.
Well, she is.
And, she is, yeah.
And so
because
they don't really say.
it.
And then there's a
no, that's what I'm saying. Because she is.
Right, because she is.
Because they're tired.
Oh my God, the MCU is tired, and watching it makes me tired. And there was a point in this movie that was supposed to be like kind of serious, involving Jane and Thor, and it was like the big reveal, and they kind of like joked through the whole thing. And I just had to slam on the brakes because I was like, guys, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you want to make all the rest of the movie a joke? Like, fine. But, like, here, isn't there supposed to... And then I thought to myself, like, well, you know what? At this point, how could they make anything serious? Because the whole rest of the movie is a joke. So...
Yeah.
At that point, it's just like, fuck it. You might as well just go with it. Make everything a joke, including this serious moment. And, it just was a whiffaroo. I mean, they go back and they go and the whole Zeus thing.
That's right. I forgot Zeus was in it.
Holy Jesus.
Wait, how was Christian Bale? Because that was, I'll be honest, like I haven't seen the movie yet. But the main reason I kind of want to check it out is entirely because they have fucking Christian Bale being the bad guy. And he looks genuinely intimidating and cool.
I think I said this last time we talked about it. You could have put anybody in that role. You really could have put anybody in that role. Actually, I think I might have brought this Thor and Love and Thunder up. But God, if I had not,
no, I think we talked this over text, but I'm just doing this.
Oh yeah. I think that's where it was. Yeah. That's where I'm getting it mixed up. But anybody could have went in that role, and the gravity of his character that was brought about by the events that happen, I don't know. I guess he did that part well, but in the end, you're just kind of like, fuck. I'm tired of watching this movie, and I'm tired of all these people. And
glad they got this giant actor for this really quick role.
Why they did that, I have no clue. Right, like right now they're talking about Christian Bale doing Grand Admiral Thrawn in some live action Star Wars thing, and I think that would be awesome.
Fuck with that.
I think that would be awesome, right?
Yeah, I would fuck with that.
Christian Bale as Gore the Butcher, I don't know why they did it. it doesn't add anything to. It didn't add anything to the MCU. It didn't add anything to this movie. But I mean, it would be hard to add anything to this movie. It was just so vacant of shit.
Yeah.
It was just. It really was just mind blowing how bad it was.
Yeah, which is crazy because Ragnarok was just
Yeah, and it's all the same
no
people.
one gave it. Yeah, no one gave a fuck about Thor, and then Ragnarok came out, and then everyone all of a sudden was like, "I think he's my favorite superhero. Oh my god, he's actually a really cool character." And then 5 seconds later, this one comes out, and everyone goes, "And back to square one."
Right, and so here's one thing that I still don't understand. I understand that Thor has a hammer, right, and now he also has the pickaxe.
Mjolnir.
So he's got Mjolnir, and then he also has Stormbreaker, right? So they go to see Zeus, right, to get Zeus's lightning bolt, because Zeus literally has a lightning bolt.
Yeah,
but it's just like the hammer. It's a physical thing you could touch, and it looks like a bolt of lightning made out of metal. And it's like a weapon, but some weapon of significance, because they use it throughout the entire rest of the movie. And, they needed it. And I'm just kind of like, where the hell is this coming from?
Yeah.
And then at the very end, after they get done with all that shit, then they throw Zeus back on there, and Zeus introduces Hercules. And Hercules is the actor, I forgot his name, but do you watch Ted Lasso at all?
No, but I've heard Ted Lasso was involved in this movie somehow, shape, or form. So I'm assuming it's this guy.
Yeah, so one of the breakout stars of the Ted Lasso show, who's a very loudmouth ex-player, now he's a coach, he is Hercules in the MCU. And I don't know how Hercules factors into Phase 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know.
Yeah. No.
Because I
have you ever seen?
Was weird.
Yeah, I was saying, have you ever seen the show? Or not a show? It's a video game called God of War, and which got really popular because they made a soft reboot.
I know of it. I never played it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, don't play it in front of your kids. It's fucking violent, but it's an amazing. Sure. It's super fun, that game, and the story's really fun and cool. But the concept is basically all gods exist from mythology, but they're located in their kind of respective areas on the globe. And so there's multiple gods of thunder, but they're basically kind of localized to certain areas. And there's kind of wars that happen between themselves, and then Nordic gods fight Greek gods, and they do it really cool though. It's really fun. And it sounds like they just did that, but worse.
Yeah,
I don't. Also MCU-ified, where it doesn't make any sense, because I have lost count now with what they're doing there.
Exactly. Well, I mean, to that point and to what you just said, I don't know what they're doing with any of this anymore, because it's just all over the place. And tonally, it's all over the place. Content-wise, it's all over the place. It is anti, the first 3 phases or 2 phases or whatever, right? Everything up to Endgame. What
do you mean? They said multiverse. They said multiverse a million times, which means therefore it's good.
I feel like they threw that multiverse. They threw that multiverse in there almost to give themselves an out, and it's kind of we can fuck around with the multiverse as we try to figure out where we're ultimately going.
Yeah, it's just such a gigantic crutch to give people, but at the same time, it's just we don't care.
Well,
we're just
You can't. We're just tired. You can't.
Tired.
You can't do all this stuff without a plan, because if you do it without a plan, this is what happens. You become rudderless, and as a fan, you don't know what to follow. It's ultimately confusing.
It's okay, if you don't care, why should I? If you're not going to tell a good story, eventually I'll lose interest. It's like The Office. The Office was a great show, and then just at one point, either they just lost direction,
or they
lost
Steve Carell.
Stopped caring. Well, I mean that, but the show was kind of getting a little worse even before he left. You could just tell the passion was kind of disappearing. They ran out of stories to tell.
Yeah, well, I mean they did things that didn't work. They made what's his face too big.
Ed Helms.
They made Ed Helms too big too, but they made Rainn Wilson too big. What the hell was his character name?
Dwight.
They made Dwight way too big, right? Dwight was supposed to be a B bit player, and they made him into an A player guy, and it was all right, enough of Dwight. I get it, it's funny, but now it's overboard. But I just don't know what's going on with the MCU. It doesn't really make sense. As a fan of it, I can't follow it anymore. And it's kind of, we'll go into another show that we got to catch up on here where
Yes.
I think tonally they make sense, and I think continuity, it makes a lot of sense. I think they're just biting off way too much, where in House of the Dragons, the jumps that they're making now.
No, please. I think that's hysterical. I laugh out loud every time they're like, it has been 6 years since we've seen each other. And I told you this before, but I get up and I clap every single time because they go, oh, they did it. Oh, they said the thing. Oh, they did it.
There it is. Well, this time they didn't waste any time in the most recent episode. They said 6 minutes.
5 seconds in.
Yeah, she said
5 seconds in. They're like, it's been 6 years since. I'm like, oh, I love it. I love that that's for me.
Well, that's why we didn't get to do the show 2 weeks ago or the past 2 weeks, but I texted you the one day and I was like, 42
10
minutes.
Years.
42 minutes in. Ding, drink. And it was like, they were like, I've done my part for 10 years. I've done my part. Oh, there it is.
It has been 10 years since we have last seen each other. And you go, cool. All right, I guess.
Yeah, they didn't waste any time this one where they said 6 minutes, as you said, in the intro.
Yeah, no, it's my favorite thing because they're just like, I do think they're writing, and once again, you have to watch the Lord of the Rings TV show, and I know we have differing opinions on the movies, but
we'll get to that maybe in the next show, because that's a good hour.
Yeah, I was going to say. But that's
movie trilogy.
Oh my god! I will defend it to my dying breath. I don't get triggered, but this might trigger me. I was going to say I am a millennial. You must remember in my heart, blood, and soul.
True that.
But as much as you may shit on that show, and there are some flaws that I'll admit, but the flaws that I'm noticing more and more with fucking the Rings of Power show, dude, is just getting kind of a bit much. It's just the writing's just not there, and House of Dragons except for those time jump things, which is just they hand it off to the 3-year-old nephew, be like, you figure out how to write the time jump happen.
All right, so let's work backwards. I haven't seen the Rings of Power,
yeah.
But I have caught up with the movies. And so, without going into the weeds on the movies, which we'll get to at another time, explain to me the premise for the show, right? Because I watched that awful trilogy of movies.
I can't believe you think it's bad. It still blows my mind.
I sat through all 10 to 12, which felt like 50 hours of nonsensical fighting and lack of physics and everything else that was wrong with that show.
It was all badass. Badass.
It was really badass.
Cool. It was badass, man. It was badass. You had fun themes in there that I enjoyed. I was jonesing with I still fuck with it to this day.
All right. Well, I'm going to open a can of whoop ass on that trilogy, so we can't do it right here.
I will. I am here. I will Muay Thai the shit back. Trust me. I have come. I have analyzed. I have studied the place.
We'll have a good Mortal Kombat.
Back to
fight to the death.
Rings of Power. Yeah, Rings of Power though. Is it's the story basically how all the different Rings of Power were made, the backstory to it.
Let me frame it a little bit, right? So the trilogy was all about the ring, right? And all
it's
the
about
rings
the
were,
destruction of the ring.
Right, well, the destruction of the ring, right? Because all the rings were made, but then all the rings were actually bullshit, and there was only one ring that mattered, right?
No. There's I have to get. There's so much backstory that I could get into, but it's just
here's one of my biggest problems with the movies is that if you didn't read the books, you're completely lost. I never read.
No, you're not. I don't think you're completely lost. I think it's just
they didn't explain anything in those trilogies. Not a thing. I had to Google things. I was trying to figure it out. I was but they jumped in and out of stuff like you wouldn't believe. Right? Again, oh man, here I am. I'm going down this tangent, but Gandalf, right? Gandalf comes back as the white Gandalf, not the gray Gandalf. And there's something behind that, except guess what? They'll never tell you. They don't give a shit. They're just going to throw the white Gandalf at you, and then you're just going to accept him. Yeah.
You just kind of go with him, man. I don't know. It's just
But is he a new
trying to
Gandalf?
analyze.
Is he the same Gandalf? He seems kind of different. What happened to him? Why is he all white now? We'll never know. Why? Because they just don't care. It's just something they needed to happen. He needed to fall into the pit, but then he needed to come back because then he needs to come in every time that you need him, hold his stick in the air, fly off the dragons. Yeah, I mean, everything in that trilogy happened exactly as you needed it to happen, because any other way
That's
it
like
would
every
fail.
trilogy ever, though. I feel like that's like even like Star Wars. If we analyze it, there's so many of these different franchises where you just got to have like this somewhat suspension of disbelief. And granted, like the White Gandalf thing, I do think that like White Gandalf just coming out of nowhere was kind of like just the Deus Ex Machina they didn't need for any reason. But there's some like
Deus Ex.
story
I was
beats.
thinking of trying to figure out. I was like, it's not Chekhov's gun,
Deus Ex-
right? There wasn't a
no,
Chekhov.
Deus Ex Machina.
It's Deus Ex
you just
Machina.
need something.
That's what I was
you need
thinking
something
of.
to solve. You need something to solve the plot. But there's
It was
there's a
3
whole,
movies of that. 3 movies.
Yeah, but the whole concept that I like is that it's like the whole world that they've kind of built is it's just such a classic hero's journey. And yes, you could really get into like the backstory of like, oh, why the fuck should we give a shit about what these elves are saying, and what the fuck does it mean that the ring is dead? Like who's the Sauron dude? All you really need to know, because I remember watching this as a kid, and I watch it to this day for like a completely different reason, partly nostalgia, but it's just like, okay, these are the good guys. Those are the bad guys. How do you know they're the bad guys? Well, they're very obviously the bad guys. They're clearly fucking shit up. And, you just kind of, you go with it on that level. You just appreciate the kind of, the different shots of New Zealand as they're traveling across this wilderness, apparently on foot for 80 miles as a dwarf and a human.
Again, dwarfs don't need any food. All they need is leavened bread and and some water, and they're good.
Those were hobbits, and leavened bread also has like a bunch of sustenance. But that's regardless. In Star Wars, you can't actually travel at light speed. But that's my point. Like, you just gotta have these like points of disbelief for these movies.
What is leavened bread, by the way? I just said leavened bread because I thought it fit, and I don't know.
Leavened bread is a Jewish food that I completely just put in there. It's fuck is the Elvish bread called? I completely blank. But it's basically like, I'm just gonna call it leavened bread because the name sounds similar.
Is leavened bread like not big? It's flat though. Is that why I use the terminology?
Yes, that's. I think that's exactly why that came up.
And their bread is like
bread. Levensy. That doesn't sound right.
I forget, but their bread is like
lemnis bread. Lemnis bread. That's what it is.
So and there's all flat and everything, and wrapped up in a
Yeah.
tea leaf, which somehow keeps it I don't know
Yeah.
edible.
Well, the concept with it is that like you don't need that much to like fully sustain yourself. Like a little bit of that bread is like basically like the equivalent of like a couple meals. But like I don't know. That was just one of the details. Like I just remember as a kid being like, "Who gives a fuck?" And then later in life, you go, "Oh, that's kind of cool. That's like how that works in."
And I told myself I wasn't going to do this because I want to stay on the Rings of Power and then maybe get back to House of Dragon before we punch out. But come on, you want to talk about Deus Ex? How about the dead army that you need? Just
badass!
Oh my god! I'm done.
Loved it. I loved it.
We don't have enough people. Well, where are we going to get them from? There's nowhere to get them from. Nobody else is out there. Aha! What about the dead people? The dead people? What are you talking about? The dead people. They're down that alley. You look down that alley and you felt all chills. Why do you feel that? Because that's where the dead army is. What dead army?
Yeah.
They've been there the whole time. You don't know about the dead army? No, why would
Yeah.
I? They haven't been in any one of these other movies. Well, they're there. And all you need is the sword. And if you have this sword and you go down there, you can tell them to do whatever they want them to do.
It wasn't even the sword. It's more like it had to be Aragorn specifically than him having like the sword was not special. Like they don't.
I get it.
Cover that. I mean,
special.
it's Aragorn. Yeah, because he's the king. He's the heir of Isildur. That bullshit. But it's I don't know. There's definitely flaws with the whole
thing. That dead
thing.
army didn't exist for any other reason other than to provide backup at the minute that they needed it when everything else was shot to shit, and then they came in.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's not even a problem with the movies. That's more like J.R.R. Tolkien just kind of threw that in for some reason. But it's fucking cool. I'm fucking down with it. I mean, once again, the Dead Army is quite literally to me the fucking Ewoks from the Return of the King. But if I'm going to have a goddamn like Ewok army that comes in to save the day, I would infinitely rather have these haunted ghosts that are upset with people than fucking teddy bears that just come out of nowhere and go, "Ooh,"
yeah,
I am
100% behind you.
Yes, so that's how I mentally think of it, and I enjoyed the shit out of both of these movies, and I'm just like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I could I had enjoyed Star Wars so much to the point that when it got to Return of the Jedi, I didn't care about the Ewoks and how stupid they were.
Yeah, and this is where we come in with me and the Dead Army, where I'm like, I enjoyed Lord of the Rings so much that when the Dead Army, which is clearly just like a last minute, how are we going to save the day? These invincible soldiers.
The invincible soldiers that come in. All right.
Exactly.
I can relate to you in that regard then. I don't know. I didn't find the enjoyment in 1 and 2 all that much. And the Hobbit part, all right. We'll get into that later. But so the ring, this was about the destruction of the rings. And then there were all these other rings that didn't get talked about, right? I mean, if they did, I somehow missed it because as soon as they introduced the One Ring, it was just about that one. So what is this show?
Well, the other ones are just not as, the whole story is like about the end, like it's basically the end of an age and magic is leaving the world. And these are the last few days. And once they kill the ring, magic is basically gone. That's the TLDR of what's really kind of going on, though they never really explained it that well. But the Rings of Power is about these rings being made. And these rings are supposed to... All the rings, all the big rings is what this show's supposed to be about, even though, ironically, they also have not even made a single ring yet in the show. We're like 8 episodes in, and we're like, what are you doing?
So, without knowing too much about the world that J.R. Tolkien, or whatever the hell it is, without that he's created, so who are the players in this show relative to the trilogy?
So that's the weird part. So they have a couple. So Hugo Weaving is a character. So his character from the show,
he makes a reappearance. They hired him.
He's not him. There's like a younger version of him because he's clearly out of the budget, and they're just like, pay for Hugo Weaving for a few episodes. Get the fuck out of here. We only have $700 billion.
Right, the elves that they never explained at all in.
Yeah, they just for whatever reason, and so like I mean, he bases a lot of this off of like weird Nordic mythology. So like, there's a lot of like Beowulf shit, and so like the elves are just. They're just way better than humans. That's my one main complaint with Lord of the Rings is just like the races just never feel equal. It's like the elves just can do fucking everything, and then humans are just kind of humans, and dwarves are just short, but they're like really good at forging things, but then so are elves for some reason. I don't know.
Well, I just know that elves, like when Link climbed up that AT-AT and
I love that you kept calling him Link. That was hilarious. Yeah.
And dethroned an entire AT-AT.
Yeah.
With his, he could do everything well because not only can he shoot his bow.
Your mistake was not watching this movie when you were 7 with all of your friends, and just like the squeals of joy that we had in that movie theater.
Yeah,
we're so extreme.
I missed out on that part of it, but anyway, all right. So the rings, they have these cast of characters. There's elves, there's trolls, there's there's hobbits. Are hobbits in this one too?
They are.
They are, right? Because they had the Black Hobbit, and everybody's pissed off about the Black Hobbit.
Yeah, which is stupid. It's like it's to say what you will, but like I think at least the characters in Lord of the Rings have like personalities. And in this one, they're just like, they're so removed of that. Like, they're barely people. They're just like, I am heroic elf number 457, and I am heroic elf number 423. And you just have to go, what? Why? What is happening right now? So do you matter? And they're like, kind of. And then they just have an entire episode devoted to this character who's just kind of there. And then nothing really happens.
Are any of them called THX 1138?
They should be for what's going on in this fucking show. And then the main character that we follow, because there's like 4 different storylines, and they pull a Game of Thrones. They're like, let's just throw you into like the midst of this without any real explanation. And they
well, what's the conflict if they're just making the rings?
So they haven't made the rings yet. So the conflict is basically like the main bad guy from the actual Lord of the Rings movie. So he hasn't like his. So I'm not even going to get into the backstory there, but he this is like him first coming to power, and so he's the main bad guy.
So and what's his name again?
Sauron. Which is not confusing at all. Yeah, so him, the giant, like 9-foot tall armor dude who looked badass, but then they never showed again in the movies.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, wasn't Sauron the big giant eye that was in the thing? Like,
yeah. Well, I'm not even going to get into that either. But let's just, for all intents and purposes, say yes, that was him.
Right. So he was the big giant knight, and then he died, and then he became the Eye, which they never explained. He was just the Eye.
So J.R.R. Tolkien explains this, but no one wants to read. Like, let's just put it this way: for the things that Tolkien wrote, they did a shockingly good job of adapting what he wrote down into a movie.
Okay.
Like it is like I don't know. They wanted to put this all originally in one movie, which like that clusterfuck would have been like I'm a little upset we'll never get to watch it because it would have been bad, and it would have been atrociously horrible, and I kind of wish I could watch it, but I never will.
Like Darth Tyrannus, I don't know why him and Sauron were like buddies. Like they never explained that one.
Yeah, that's it's in the book, which is I feel like another quote we should have. We should put that and "I'm tired" on shirts. It's in the book. I'm tired. It's just there's a reason for it. He kind of talks about it briefly in the first movie, but I don't know. It's one of those like kind of Game of Thrones things. Maybe it would have been better as a series, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But all right. So back to Sauron being created in Rings of Power.
Yeah, or he's like rising to power, but he's like basically think of him as also being kind of like immortal, like the elves to a degree, because apparently that's the thing in this book.
Okay, is he actually tangible in this show?
Yes, he's supposed to be. He's not shown up yet though, which is infuriating because I am like I know what's going to happen in the show. I read the story that this is going to be based on, even though they're taking a lot of liberties apparently, and like I'm supposed to be seeing at any point now some 9-foot tall armored dude who looks badass with a fucking mace, and he's supposed to wreck shit, and I just have not seen him yet, and and I think most fans are going, where the fuck is he?
Gotcha.
I was promised this. And I mean, that's half of why I watch Lord of the Rings, to watch people get fucked up. Like, it's just really cool watching these gigantic medieval fights.
Have there been a lot of fights in the Rings of Power?
Yeah, we've had a lot of orcs again. The orcs were cool. I like them. Because in the Hobbit movies they made a few years ago, they pulled a Star Wars where they basically completely CGI'd everything that they'd previously done with practical effects, and it looked not great.
Oh wow, they did orcs with CGI instead of all the puppetry.
Bad. It looks bad.
Now those Hobbits were also Peter Jackson, right?
Yeah, they were supposed to be Guillermo del Toro originally.
Okay.
But
and
I don't know what happened there. He jumped out for whatever reason, and then last minute, New Line Cinema said, "Hey Peter, you want to do this?" And he's like, I this is why I wanted Giello to do it. He was really passionate about it. I'm just kind of tired. And they went, here's a shit ton of money. And he went, looks like I want to do the Hobbit movies also.
Well, I saw the Rotten Tomatoes. I think the last one of those Hobbit movies really didn't do well. I think the first two were good, and then the last one, it was like a whiff-a-roo.
Well, because they could have split into two movies, and the third one, they're like, well, we need to have a gigantic fight scene for no reason. And you're just like, do you? I don't think you need to do a gigantic fight scene.
And those Hobbits were before Fellowship?
Yeah, they're like 60 years before the Fellowship of the Ring. It's how Bilbo, who's like
Bilbo Frodo,
the guy, that guy, it's how he gets the ring,
right? Baggins
from Gollum, yeah.
Bilbo Baggins.
Bilbo Baggins, but that was the Hobbit story is completely different because it was originally this children's story written by J.R.R. Tolkien. And my dad read that to me when I was growing up, and it was great. But just they tried to make it into Lord of the Rings, and it's not as epic of a tale as Lord of the Rings, the books.
Right.
But it was good. It was fine. It was fine.
It was fine.
Also a T-shirt.
Well,
fine. It was fine.
I'm tired, and it's fine.
Yeah, I'm tired. It's fine. It was in the book.
It just feels like the problem that they're having with this show, and this is the show that I'm gonna catch up with, is that they just took something that's really big, and it too, much like some of the MCU stuff, feels a little rudderless because they have given you 8 episodes of kind of not what you necessarily want, right?
Yes.
Right, like you want Sauron, you want his rise to power, you want storylines to revolve around him, and instead you're getting all the fringe stuff on the outside.
Yeah. Or it's that, or it's just like I want these stories, but they're drawn out to be a TV show because everyone wants to make a Game of Thrones now. And you're just kind of like, did you have to do it this way? I don't like maybe like a movie would be better. I don't know. Like this is kind of the opposite situation from the actual Lord of the Ring. Like I mean, I like the Lord of the Ring movies, but there's like the MCU where everything had like you have to have She-Hulk, the show, 8 uncut hours of She-Hulk shenanigans, and you go, I didn't even want 1 hour of it as She-Hulk shenanigans, and you overbooked it.
Well, the Rings of Power, this is a business thing. I mean, this is all Amazon. That's what this whole shit's about. I mean, this is not about the Lord of the Rings and giving the fans.
This isn't about artistic integrity? That's what you're telling me?
This has nothing to do with giving the fans more of what they love and desire. This is the fact that they know that there are X millions and millions and millions of Lord of the Ring fans, and that this might get them to subscribe to Prime. If they haven't done so already, right? But I mean, that's why they got, Thursday Night Football, same bullshit. And ultimately, if they make a play for, the Sunday ticket on the NFL, I mean, it's all about the same thing. They don't really care about the game or the story or the book. They just care about the people that dig it because that means dollars. So, let's kind of transfer and we'll wrap up with comparing this to House of the Dragon. Because I will say, with House of the Dragon, look, the time jump thing throws me for a loop. I don't necessarily.
I still think it's hilarious.
It
should be a drinking game. Yeah, it's hilarious. Like every episode, I like literally go, ha 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 ha, they did it.
Right. It's funny. It's taken away, I think, a little bit of the gravity of any given situation because, and I mentioned this before, you don't know these people. And if you've been with them for like a hot second. And sometimes if you've been with them for longer than a hot second, it's not them because they changed actors or actresses. And now it's a different actor and actress. And like the girl that's playing Rhaenyra, I mean, she doesn't even look like the original Rhaenyra.
She looks kind of similar, but like my bigger problem is
the first girl's teeth had like jutted out and like.
My bigger issue is like some of the kids, like one of the latest episodes. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but
I've seen them all.
Like the little 12-year-old, the little 12-year-old who tamed Vagar, like that gigantic old dragon that looks badass.
lost his eye for it.
He looks like he lost his eye. I love like the take they're bringing this character. Like he's like kind of also Daemon Targaryen basically, but like he looks like he aged from 12 to 31.
Yes.
In 6 years.
There's been a lot of jumps.
Like me and my friends were talking at work today. We're like, "Damn, he hit puberty hard, dude."
Right?
Shit.
Yeah. And they haven't really explained. I mean, I know who the characters are, but here's the problem I'm having with those kids: is that without giving you any introduction to who they are, like I don't. They're just people. Like I mean, they're not even characters to me. They're just like a kid, and they've got a name. Like, I don't know the personality of any of them. I just know that one, because they put a little bit of focus on the eldest. Who's the eldest? Aegon?
Yeah, Aegon.
He's just a drunk. Aegon's just a drunk jerk-off
he's kind of he's just a douchebag.
He's just a douchebag, right. That's the only person the only kid of all of the nieces, nephews, cousins, because they're all uncles and everybody marries. I don't know who's who.
Yeah, don't think about it too hard.
Yeah, none of them have personalities except for Aegon, and Aegon's just a douchebag drunk, right? I mean, and that's it. And he's going to be the heir to the throne, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's
But okay, and I'll just end with this. Without the time jumps, I think that the show succeeds. In a sense, because unlike Game of Thrones and I guess Rings of Power, where it was this big giant world that they could have tackled, they ended up just doing one family, one fight for the throne, for the power. It's a lot smaller than Game of Thrones.
Yeah, you can like wrap your head around it way faster, and it's just like you get a lot more one-on-one with these characters, and it's just I'm loving it. I don't know. I'm really digging this show. I mean, Rings of Power I like, but that's it. I like it, and the flaws are just really apparent. And there's a couple episodes, like there's one in particular, right before the one that I guess was 2 episodes ago now. It was fucking boring. Like it was like it started off strong, and you go, okay, this is cool. Where are you taking this? And then they just go to this boring storyline that they did the week before. Like, all right, we're getting ready to go to battle. I'm like, that's what you did the week before. There was a whole episode about that. Why do you need two about getting ready? Like, why are you showing me these characters? Like, this fucking sucks.
Well, 2 episodes ago with House of the Dragon, I thought that was boring as shit. The one that everybody was blasting because it was too dark. You couldn't see anything.
Which one was that?
That was who was Damon's first wife, the Valerian that died.
When he kills that lady, that was funny.
And they dump her off, and then he ends up, he ends up hooking up and having sex with Rhaenyra, and then they marry.
Oh yes, that one.
That episode. That was when the oldest, who took Vhagar, the Vhagar, the big giant dragon,
teenager kid. The little teenager kid.
That was that episode as well. That was supposed to be a big thing. I mean, that episode was boring. So I mean, House of the Dragons hasn't been perfect.
No, it's not perfect, but like. Lord of the Rings, like if you watched it and like the complaints you're having about Lord of the Rings or the regular one right now, I really feel like they're just because I understand part of where you're coming from, but there's something about it that I like. It's probably partially nostalgia, but there's also something more like there's so much content now, and so many people have just evolved on certain like the original Superman comics. If you read them, fucking trash. Like they're so basic, straightforward. And that's kind of where I think about.
A lot of early stuff or early content is garbage too, right?
Exactly. So early TV storytelling's just evolved over time to where like you expect more from certain like storytellers or writers, and that's kind of how I think of like Lord of the Rings to a degree where it's like and you think of it in its time, it's really good. But like right now, if this came out, I'd go get the fucking line. Like there's a million like you. Get the fuck out of here. This is nothing.
Yeah, again, I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's just the story itself. Like, I don't even know if I read that as a book in the 80s or 70s. Yeah, I wasn't around. But, I mean, if I had read a book early on, I don't know if I'd be into it either. Because, I mean, God, I don't know if the books read different than the movie. But it's like you're just watching the movie. There was zero suspense. Because anytime, things just happened to happen. And nobody was ever at risk, ever. And, they introduced people as they needed to, and it was just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess. They introduce him, then they go here, they introduce these people.
I guess this is happening. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and I laughed out loud a couple of times at things that happened because it was like, yes, of course that would happen. Of course that would happen. The whole, the Gollum fight at the end. I know I'm going to get into this another time, but the Gollum fight at the end.
The Gollum fight I love. The Gollum fight I love actually.
The very last one where it was like he had died because he fell off a cliff, but I guess he didn't die from that falling off a cliff. Because he had to go down with the ring, right? So all of a sudden, at the very last minute, right when he's about to throw off the ring, I was saying to myself, and I said, "Oh no!" And I was making fun of Elijah Wood's character. What was it, Mr. Frodo? I was like, "Oh, Mr. Frodo can't. He's too attached to the ring. He can't throw it down." So here's the part where he jumps in with the ring because that's the only way the ring dies. And then all of a sudden, out comes Gollum.
Oh, I love that. I think you're thinking of this like it's too corny because like. No other show does that. Okay, we're going to get too into the weeds here with this, but it's just like, I love that concept because there's no other media that really just has like this fucking, and calling it a pussy is probably too much. I know that like seems like that on its surface, but this is like so many shows now will have a character like Captain Marvel from the Marvel movies where she's just so overpowered and such a badass, and she just shrugs everything off. And meanwhile, in Lord of the Rings, you have this hero who, like, literally every enemy that they have just been shoving aside for these movies. Like, you see Aragorn and Legolas literally just like, oh, there's an orc. Who gives a fuck? I am so much more overwhelmed with these other things right now. And then Frodo and Sam, they see, like, an orc, like one of them, who before was just like, who gives a fuck? This is a major problem for them, and they have the most difficult job of all. And I find that super interesting. And all the while, Frodo is being like slowly corrupted by this incredibly malevolent like object around his neck that's like having this physical like effect on him that you see as the movies go on, and it's like making like it's like dragging into his neck, and then he's like he wants he's becoming Gollum as the movie goes on, and finally like kind of captures him. And then ironically, the ring's undoing is Gollum. Like if it weren't for Gollum being there the whole time and like his addiction to it, and so in the book it kind of plays differently where it's not Frodo tackling him and they're fighting over it. It's literally Gollum getting the ring and he's gloating over them. He starts dancing and then he falls off. But I guess they moved it a little bit.
God, really?
Which is no, but that's so cool to me. Where it's just kind of like the heroes do all this work and they just get it there and they fuck up, and it's just this weird,
man, I think that's even worse.
Ironic twist of fate. I don't know. I like all of it. I like all of it. I just like that the heroes are just severely underpowered to this crazy degree, and they still keep pushing
Did you like
through.
it when Mr. Frodo got stabbed by a big giant spider, but the spider didn't really kill him because he just likes to impale people and freeze them.
He likes to eat his food.
He likes to eat his food fresh, so he didn't kill him with a big fucking.
Not so fresh.
Oh Christ! Anyway,
Just a boy.
so House of the Dragon. Do you think? I don't think it's as big as Game of Thrones, right? And I guess my question is, as we wrap up here, getting a little long, but like, do you think it's not as big because it's a smaller show in terms of people and the world? Or do you think people have just kind of had enough of Game of Thrones and, they just kind of separated themselves after the end of, the last season? Because it's not. I shit on it for the time jumps, and it kind of throws me off. But like, it's a good watch.
I do like the show. Yeah, I was gonna say I do like the show. Like I'll agree with you, but it's just like I am liking the show overall. Like I think it's solid. But my phone is about to die. Actually, shit. Let me start for the last few minutes. But I am liking it. Like overall, like it's just solid. It's not Game of Thrones like I think. Game changing where it's going to be completely just dominating the social culture for the foreseeable future, but it's good. It's good.
No, I bet House of Dragon actually bombs out and kind of fades away on a low note. That's how I feel it's going, unless it somehow picks up. Because
so from what I know is coming, it's going to get real. I can't imagine they have more than 3 seasons. If they do, then I totally agree with you. But from where the story's going, from what I remember, this season, I'm pretty sure if it's like following the structure, I think it is, they're going to end it on this big like, oh shit, and then the next season, everything's going to go down. Everyone's going to get murdered because, spoiler alert, very few people live by the end of this.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what we all know.
Legit, like I was going to say, legit, like 3 people that we saw in the scene last night may live, and that's like a big may. So we'll see. Let's just put it that way. It's not going great for anybody. But that's what I'm pumped for.
Did you think that it was a little bit of a stretch the way that they ended it? In terms of, you want to talk about Deus Ex Machina or whatever, how. And I didn't understand this is what happened. I had to go to Google and figure out and read an article about this. How the king was talking to his wife. I forgot her name already. Hightower. Allison Hightower. And he thinks that she's Rhaenyra. And he's picking up on the question that Rhaenyra had asked him with Daemon earlier in the show on his bed. And so now he answers her question, but he's saying it to Alicent. And so Alicent thinks he's saying that Aegon should be the king, not Rhaenyra, and that's going to start this whole civil war. Little bit of a stretch, no, right? Did you pick up on that? Because I did not pick up on that. You read this stuff, so you probably knew it.
I mean, I didn't figure that specifically, but I just knew what that scene was the moment it started happening, where I was like, oh, this is going to be... Because they ended the episode with like them being kind of chummy again, and I was like, well, there's no way they're ending it like that. They're not ending the episode like, and everything's good. Like I was like, this is clearly some misunderstanding has to happen, where she thinks like, oh no, fuck these people once again. I need to think I'm correct.
Right.
And
But I didn't, like, I was wondering, I'm like, okay, why is he saying that to her? And then she's taking it to heart, and then she's like, I understand what you're saying, my king. And then it was like, I don't understand. Like, okay, so he thought that the whole time? And then I had to go to the internet because I was like, what the hell did he say and what was it about? And then they were like, oh, no, he thought that was Rhaenyra, and because he's all old and out of whack, he thought he was talking to Rhaenyra and telling her that she was the one that had to do it, but he instead said it to Allison, so there's a big misunderstanding.
I figured that out just based on, like, I was like, there's no way they're ending this way. It has to be a misunderstanding. And I just, because I'm a fucking virgin nerd, I know all the characters' names. So I was like, oh, she's confusing this Aegon with that Aegon. Because the moment I realized the other baby's name was Aegon, I was like, oh, I know where this is going. Okay. I figured this out. I know what you're doing, you piece of shit.
Yeah, I didn't. I missed that whole thing. I missed the whole thing, and I had to go Google for it. And I don't know.
I realize it's a lot of these shows, and Lord of the Rings is clearly an example, but I think they're enjoyable because I never read Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones when I first went through either one, and I was like, what the fuck is going on here? What's this? But I was still enjoying the ride. But then when you read the books, it's just like, oh, this is a lot more clear now. Like, I have a lot bigger picture of what's going on. So what I'm basically saying is, before we close out for the night, is buy our merch that says read the book. It's fine. And
I'm tired.
I'm tired.
That's what it is, man. I'm tired is it. So, all right, we'll wrap up there, and we'll pick up next week. I'll try to catch up on the Rings of Power. You got to do a lot of She-Hulk. You got a much better watch in front of you.
I got She-Hulk. I got nothing this weekend. I will be watching the Dahmer series, which I'm pumped about.
Oh, Dahmer series. I've heard all about that, too.
I'm so pumped for that. I'm watching that. I'm going to try and watch some Andor. I'm going to watch one more episode of She-Hulk, because I'm going to be honest with you, that is a rough go.
It is, but it's a fantastic rough go. It doesn't get any better. It only gets worse. So you gotta watch it.
It's a half hour of pain for infinite conversation about how much I just despise every aspect of it.
Right.
Because we can disagree on Lord of the Rings as much as we want, but whenever there's just a mutual hatred of something, I mean, look how far the U.S. has gotten on hating Nazis. Like, that just goes to show the power of hatred.
Now we're hating Russians. That's what we're doing.
And now we're hating the Russians. Yeah, I can't stand them.
I hate those guys. They're the worst.
Yeah.
All right, I'm punching out. Let's wrap it up, and then we will pick up next week, and we'll pick we'll talk about everything under the sun.
Nice. All right. Godspeed, brother.
All right. Peace out. All right. Talk to you guys next week.